Hey everyone, and welcome back to NintendoFuse Game Chat. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Connected Hearts Fortune Play and Connected Hearts Full Moon Curse, both of the collector's editions on Nintendo Switch. Barry and Greg, thanks for joining me to talk about these two games. They're basically point-and-click types of adventures on the Nintendo Switch. Full Moon Curse was the first game that came out, and it's talked about. It's a quiet, peaceful forest hiding a werewolf, and so your objective is to heal him. And so you go through these different adventures and try to find healing for this person you see at the very beginning of the game, and kind of sometimes you're doing some searching and finding within a scene that you have there. Sometimes you're trying to solve puzzles, a bunch of different things, but it's mostly this strategy game. And then the follow-up of Fortune Play has you saving your soulmate from Fortuna's grasp. And so you are a singer, plays you and your soulmate, and you get one of you gets captured and to bring them back for Fortuna's grasp. And basically the same kind of idea in both of these games, are point and click kind of adventures, finding certain things on the screen, solving different puzzles, and making your way through the game and eventually completing it. Or, maybe the goal is to complete it. We'll get into that in just a bit, and I'll tell you why I couldn't complete at least one of them. But before I share those things, Barry, what'd you think of Connected Hearts?
So I have played games like this before, older games on the PC, and like the later 90s, and this was this newfangled thing that we could do, use the mouse to play games and do more complex. And I think these games honestly have a lot going for them. There's some really cool ideas, the whole connected hearts where you swap between two different characters as you go through the story and see the two different perspectives. I like that. Sometimes you get a map where you can move multiple rooms. I also like that too. Um, some of the puzzles are decent, but there's also a lot on the other side of that coin. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of just really weird execution, I should say, like good ideas but very poorly executed. Uh, there's terrible voice acting. In fact, one of the characters I swear is Alexa. It's literally just Alexa's voice talking in monotone.
And Gregor, the town's new witch hunter, suspects us of performing dark magic. Look, is that your beloved alchemist Mark over there?
And I'm just like, oh my god, this is bad. But I have to give it, maybe they're a very small budget, and that's what they went with. It's better than nothing, I suppose. The games are also riddled horrifically with glitches. I had times where I paused the game and then I came back and all the voices just started talking at the same time. I had one instance where I was doing one of these puzzles where you have to find objects in this room, almost like a Where's Waldo of different objectives. And you could do that, or you could play a match 3 game. And I accidentally hit match 3. And I was like, no, I was almost done with that. So I went back to the other puzzle, and all the voices started bombarding me.
This will be town's new witch hunter and suspects us of performing dark magic to the dungeon there.
And one of the voices, done by Alexa, never stopped. So all the other ones stopped, but she just kept repeating her line over and over ad nauseum until I finished this puzzle.
Go down to the streets and head to the embankment. There's a secret passage to the dungeon there. Go down to the streets and head to the embankment. There's a secret passage to the dungeon there. Go down to the streets.
I wanted to rip my ears out. It was bad. I had terrible slowdown upon entering a new zone. Just horrific slowdown. It was unbelievable that this this got out of the gate, like Nintendo's lot check didn't catch this, because maybe this happened. I think it felt worse the later it got in the game.
Hmm.
Like, it didn't really affect the early, and I think the lot check people probably played the first level. I'm like, yeah, that's about all I could take. So it's good. Let's go. The cursor was not always as responsive as I wanted it to be. There's a sensitivity. I definitely recommend you adjust the sensitivity to your liking, because it's either super slow or lightning fast, and since obviously it's emulating a mouse. They had this nice little circle around the cursor too, which was supposed to, I guess, show you what you can click, but it didn't do anything at all other than get in the way. But yeah, sometimes you had to click and hold, sometimes you had to click once. Sometimes the puzzles were very unclear. There was a lot of optional stuff, and there was a hint system, and the hint system is great when it works, and sometimes it just keeps showing you an area, and I'm like, there's nothing to do in this area, and it's like, oh, but it keeps pointing me in that direction. I'm like, there's nothing here, and I'm clicking everywhere and I'm using everything, and I'm like, okay, I give up, I'm moving on, I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
So there's some positives, but and there's a lot of ambition. These people wanted to tell an ambitious story twice, so two different stories, and I got to give them mad props for wanting to do it. um, the stories, the writing needed editing. A lot of the dialogue is like a second grader wrote their grand, magnum opus. As a writer, it hurt me to read some of this dialogue. And the stories are super generic, like asinine generic, with a lot of it. Like you can see the plot twist coming a mile and a half away, and some of it just doesn't make sense at all. Like, characters are just standing around, and they're just letting you walk around, or it's like no one cares, and like there's like this hurry, and there's no hurry to worry about. Like, no one's gonna care, no one touches you. And the faces, there's something unsettling about all the characters' faces. I don't know what it is, but it's like
Yeah.
mannequins that have come to life, and with Alexa's voice, and it's like Skynet from the future showing us what it's going to be like. I don't know. That's enough.
Yeah.
Greg, take over. You played way more and saw more than the rest of us.
It's true. Greg beat both of these games, so that's impressive.
Yeah, it was more. I didn't realize how short they were going to be, so I wasn't initially planning
You
to
told me
beat.
8 hours. That's not short. That was torture.
I mean, yes, I mean, I experienced a lot of the issues that Barry did see. Like a lot of the audio stuff, just like either like coming at the pausing the game, or just like switching between some different options. Like it just spams out all these different audio lines. Thankfully, I never got the one on repeat for the rest of the mini game. That would have been pure
I have that on
horrible.
video.
But yeah,
Nice.
each going to the different areas, just like there's an immediate like slowdown, and you wouldn't think so, because a lot of them are somewhat static images, or very easy, like you can really tell, like retro, like old PC game style animation. So it's not like anything that's like crisp that you see in your average game that's produced today, like with like the most modern technologies. So that was kind of jaw dropping to see, like how like it slowdowns can even happen with just such basic like somewhat like movable images. But yeah, the puzzles were certainly very interesting to try to solve. It was just like you're trying to put like, oh, you need to like make a slingshot, and then like, oh, you can use like some ribbon and like a stick, and then like, oh, you find like a rock or whatever, and then like, okay, like that fully assembles that. And then I mean, obviously, it never really always told you where to go unless you did have it on like the casual setting, which I definitely used, because it was a lot of the stuff was very not. Some of it was like not very sensical in a way. Like, why would you like be using these things in this way? But thankfully, some of them like were pretty much straightforward. Like, oh, I need to dig, and then like, oh, I need to find a gardening tool, and then like, okay, that's very makes a lot of sense. Or if you're going through like a pile of dirt, then you can sift through it, and then magically this like object just appears out of nowhere through the sifter, and it's like it'll like be like three or four things. And so the placements on some of the things were definitely very questionable, and like how they could fit and do it. And some of the other things were very, there were some creative moments where it can like open up like the clock, and then like there's a bunch of cool things inside of there that you need for like other parts of the adventure or whatever, because the pretty much everything that you find like can be used, and the hint system actually shows if there's still like remaining things to find at like the location. So it usually locks you to like 2 or 3 or 4 different scenes, and then like you go between all three of those, like 2 to 4 different scenes to find things. And there's a lot of times you have to go back and forth in between them after you find like a few different things that you can complete. So I mean, wasn't really super strenuous to find everything, because like I just kind of would just like spam the button, and then it would just like pick up a lot of the different things that I needed to find, and I would just basically try to tap on everything I could. Um, but yeah, the mini games were a different thing of a different bag. Like those things like didn't even really make any logical sense. Like all of a sudden, like as Barry was saying, you open up like a Where's Waldo scene, like you open a closet and like, oh, match like 2 of these things, or find something that's like different between the left image and the right image, and had all these different mini games. And some of them like I was like clicking on them, but it wasn't registering. So then like, all right, oh, I'm just gonna go to the do the match 3, and then like you're basically playing Candy Crush Saga at that point, because it's just like, oh, you're just doing the tile swapping, and then everything just magically works. And so then like you can eventually just solve it that way. Thankfully, that there was like a workaround on some of those uh, more obtuse puzzles. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I had thought that the Full Moon Curse had a overall better storyline. Just it just seemed more interesting with like magic, like witches and stuff, with trying to solve like the curing the guy of being a werewolf, and that just came across as a stronger storyline as opposed to just the general damsel in distress and chasing after her. And then like you do get to meet up with her at one point, and then like all of a sudden like then you have to you like end up in the woods, and then like, oh, of course this guy works for the bad guy, and then so then like recaptures her, and like it's very predictable and very easily seen that wasn't like anything come off as surprising in that other story, in
Mm-hmm.
the Fortune storyline, as opposed to the werewolf one. But overall, I mean, like the stories were probably the more interesting part of it. The puzzles were nothing spectacular, and obviously with all the performance issues and audio issues, it very made it a very troubling experience to try to swallow down.
Just to interject one thing or two things. One, some of the items don't like some of the things totally make sense. Like you need gardening tools to dig, totally makes sense. But where you find the gardening tools doesn't. Like it's, oh, there's a chest that you need to do this complicated lock, and in there is a shard of glass and a shovel. Why is a shard of
Mhm.
glass and a shovel in a locked chest? Like it doesn't
You don't
matter.
keep
Like
your shards of glass and a shovel in a
clearly
lock chest?
clearly, I mean, like that's where it was nonsensical. But talking about clicking everywhere, the first game, the Full Moon, you can click around and it's great, you could find stuff. But the second game said, "Oh no, that's too easy, and if you click around too much, locks and chains come down and prevent you from doing anything for like 10 seconds." And I'm like, "You're punishing me for clicking around. That is
So annoying.
nasty. Why are you doing that?" And sometimes it's just like you click like 3 times too quickly, even though you're not like just randomly, and it happens, and you're like, "What the heck? Now I'm locked out.
Mhm.
Like, do
No,
you not want me to play this game?"
Yeah, I'm with you guys on pretty much everything. Like I know that like yeah, it starts off with the very beginning, like with that cursor circle, and you're like, why is this here all the time? Like even because I was trying to even get some good footage of the game to use for our game chat here and overlay it and all that stuff. I'm like, I cannot get rid of this circle cursor thing, and so it's there all the time, no matter what. The voice acting is rough, and it's very like I don't know when these games originally came out, but mm, it feels like it was maybe 2003. Um, I don't know for sure. Maybe it was, and but they've not really been updated at all. Like the a lot of stuff is just it's really rough. And that's I think like Greg, I know you liked the fortune or you liked Full Moon
Full
better
Moon.
than Fortune Play. I feel like it was improved a little bit in Fortune or in Fortune Play, which increased my liking of the game just a little bit. I felt like in Full Moon I was like it was a drag sometimes. where Fortune Play, I actually got moving along at a clip sometimes. I was like, oh, okay, this is okay, not too bad. But Full Moon, it was a drag the entire time. So here's the reason why I didn't finish either of these games. Full Moon Curse, I got to a point where you have to find the serum. You guys remember this part? The serum, and you find the 3 different ingredients for it. And I knew where to put them. But I'm guessing you guys figured this out faster than I did, hopefully, that you have to actually click something behind it to actually trigger to put the ingredients in there. I was just dropping them on there and it's like, nope, doesn't work. Nope, doesn't work. Wish this would have done something different. I'm like, what is going on? I don't get this. And so I just started clicking around and somehow I clicked, I think there's a potion list or something that's behind the two the weighing thing, whatever that's called, something behind it that I just accidentally clicked, the scale. Yeah, that I actually accidentally clicked, which then triggered it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But I gave up on the game at that point before I did that, went to the other one, played that for a while, then came back and I'm like, okay, maybe I can figure this out. Started clicking randomly and then that popped up. Finished that area and I was like, I'm done. Not playing this again. The second game, so Fortune Play, like I said, I was moving along pretty quickly. You get to a point where you have to roll the dice and then you switch over to back to the girl, and then you eventually break glass and all that stuff and you see that thing going back and then he's like, oh, it's too late, Fortuna's already got your soul, and then it sends the guy into the somewhere else, like in captivity or whatever. So you know how on the bottom part of the screen you have this little icon that like shows which character you're playing at the moment? I think you might be able to, I'm guessing at some point, be able to switch back and forth between characters or something. Well, I did. And I switched back to the girl who is still behind the glass. And there is nothing that I can do to move on in the game at all. I clicked everywhere. I cannot switch back to the guy who's in captivity, who I'm supposed to pick up from his storyline at that point on. Nope. I'm stuck on her with nothing to do. Backed out of the game, thought maybe it'll pick up, if I relaunch it. Nope. And so the only way that I would be able to do it is to start from the very beginning of the game and go all the way through. And this game is not worth doing that for at all.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So on top of the slowdown, I experienced slowdown a whole lot more in one of them more than the other. I can't remember which one it was.
Fortune, I had more than.
I think it was Fortune as well. Like it was a lot of slowdown the more I progressed in the game as well. Like it, even loading back into the main screen was a lot. All the voices started coming in at the same time, similar to you, Barry. I'm like, all these crazy glitches and everything. But the worst was when I got stuck and I'm like, well, I'm not starting this game over from scratch at all. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Anything else that we haven't talked about? Like, I mean,
Well,
what are some? Go ahead.
I was gonna say Greg did the bonus chapters as well. So
Oh,
why don't you
there's
talk
bonus
about
chapters.
those?
Yes.
Yeah, we did
Tell
those.
us.
Yeah, so after you get to like around 70%, like you actually, it says like you completed the main story and then they added some sort of bonus chapter. I think that's what makes it a collector's edition. I don't know if it was an expansion for the PC game when it originally released, but it's basically just like another extra chapter that was added for both games that just kind of expands on how the one actually ended. So then like the Fortuna one has just going after like they introduced like another like big bad guy that was kind of the behind like the whole thing overall, and then it's just trying to solve like that particular mystery, and like even like with like the curse of the werewolf one, that they just like had like another like, oh, there was actually like a different sorcerer that's trying to take over the land, and the spirit wolf thing is he pretended to be the spirit wolf, and then he was like an imposter and he had to like solve through that. And that one was the much more interesting to do at the end because it has you assembling a staff, and then you get to like put like a fire orb, an electrical orb, and like a water orb and stuff. Like it had like the four elemental things that you had to find to like use the staff, and like just assembling that was like all kind of cool, like how it all ended. So pretty much like you knew at that point, like, oh, like all I have to do is just find like these four things, and then it's like that's it, it's game over. And since like it already shows you like you can unlock like the last few of the chests like with the exclamation mark on the map, like it shows you like, oh, there's still something left to find here, and then it gives you at least a clue on which screens you need to be on and to find like the last items. I mean, that was hint system worked throughout like the game like that. You're at least trying to find everything and all the collectibles and stuff too. But overall, I thought that one ended on a much better note, and like pretty much all you do is just you like tap on the guy after the staff is assembled, and then it's like boom, it's like okay, boom, game's over. Here's the credits again, and um, the very funny part about the credits is like there's even like the huge slowdown like you experience throughout the game. So like the credits are like this worse than like the start of like the Star Wars movies. Like they're like super scrolling, like super duper duper slow, and it's like, oh, I guess this is probably be about an hour to watch this. But actually, they have like a skip thing, so I was able to like just bypass the credits, not trying to not account for anyone's hard work on their games that they just did. But um, having a slowdown at the credits is not exactly something that somebody you want to add to the runtime of the
Yeah.
game.
Well, I think a lot of that stuff, like the slowdown, those glitches, so when you bring a game to the Switch or any platform, sometimes optimization is needed. And I feel like they just click and put these to the Switch and didn't optimize and just launched them. And I don't know if there's going to be a patch. I don't know if they're going to take the time to even fix these or say, good enough. But I feel like that was it. I feel like they just took older PC games, threw them on the Switch with zero optimization, didn't fix any bugs that were created because of the different hardware, and that's that. And what you see is what you get, and
Mhm.
that's unfortunate, really.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I do think there's good games here. I do think there's good games here, and if they came out in 2003 and that's what your jam, I definitely feel like for that era, great, you know. But there's a lot of better games from 2003 that you could be spending your time with. In fact, there's a lot of better games from almost every era that you could be spending your time with. But
Yeah.
like I said, there was a lot of ambition for
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, like there's and better games in this genre, right? I mean, like so many better games that are in, this point and click, a visual novel kind of style that find, search and find, puzzle kind of adventure that I think you would have a lot more excitement around as well. And I do want to make sure that you guys know that there is a third Connected Hearts game.
I told
And
you.
it is the Musketeers Saga is the third one, and so maybe the Musketeers Saga will eventually drop on Nintendo Switch. Maybe we'll have to do a follow up on it. But yeah, I guess these games I still haven't found when they originally came out. But this pack of 3 games will run on Windows XP. So
Wow, there you go.
we'll see. You can get all 3 games for $42, and then it runs on Windows XP, Vista 7, 8, and 10. So
This why.
we'll see. But yeah, we do want to thank. It goes without saying, we want to thank Ocean Media, publishers of these 2 games, and their PR company for giving us some codes to check them out as well. But the games are both $14.99 on the US eShop for Switch. Barry, you excited to hear that they're $15 a pop?
Oh my god. I can't recommend them anywhere near that price. I mean, I'd say if they were 99 cents and you were even remotely interested, I'd say give these a shot and maybe you'll find some enjoyment. Maybe. $15? I can give you a list a mile long of games that are $15 or under that you're better off playing on the Switch.
Yeah. Greg, I know you're more of a fan of a Full Moon than Fortune. Are either of them worth $15?
Unfortunately, not. If they did patch the performance thing. I might be able to give like a pass to like potentially try to check it out, but without any sort of optimizations to making sure that there's no slowdowns and massive audio issues, and possibly even like kind of restrict all the chains from dropping down all the time. Like if they were able to like have more like usability factors with that, I could possibly see recommending it like a 15 or even like a sale price of like 10 or something. But in their current state and anything, there's nowhere near I would want to like recommend that with like a 10-foot pole, because like this is very it was somewhat of a struggle to get through it. And I only since I did the first one, I thought might as well just get the other one through to full completion as well. Um, so it was more just like I was pressing myself just to try to see if it was going to get any better, but a lot of the issues just remained throughout the full experience.
So what you're saying is it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the performance issues and everything can be fixed and removed, then it might be an easier thing to swallow. But as Barry said, there's many other games at that price point that would be much worth it that aren't riddled with like kind of those kinds of
Mhm.
bugs and
Yeah.
performance issues.
I do feel like did either of you guys play in handheld mode?
No.
No.
No,
Greg, did you?
unfortunately not.
Okay.
No.
That's one of the thoughts that I had, and I wish I would have had a chance to do it before we had this game chat, because I feel like it's a better handheld experience, is my guess. If you're, because it is touchscreen enabled, so I think that is probably a better experience to play on the go, smaller screen. You can't tell, as you know, the graphics aren't nearly as bad on a small screen, and all this stuff. And I think touching the screen was probably going to be a better experience than using the analog sticks to click all over the place and everything. The thing is, they do include a strategy guide within the game as well, so you can see exactly what you need to do in the game. They tell you step by step process for the entire game, which I thought was interesting. And but it still didn't get me out of my stuck place where I was like, well, I hit this hint over and over again, and it gives me no hints because I cannot get out of this
'Cause you're not even
particular
supposed to be
screen,
there.
because I'm not even supposed to be here, and there's no way to escape. But I feel like I'm going to withhold my judgment completely, because I wonder if it's a slightly better experience in a handheld version. But overall, yeah, I'm with you guys. I can't really recommend this. We're grateful for the review codes. It was great to check these games out. But this is our review. This is our unabashed review of these games, and we're going to be honest with you guys, and we would recommend probably staying away from the Connected Hearts games, unless, like Greg said, that maybe they're patched and the performance is improved. Then maybe, then a really strong maybe, but definitely on sale. I don't know if we can recommend any of them at full price, especially with glitches. So
Yeah, I mean, the total runtime was only close to like 8 hours or so, so it's not like it's if that gives any perspective on number of hours to the money that you put down towards it. But
yeah,
obviously, that's can be different for everybody else, and it just depends on how fast you solve puzzles too. So it can take longer if you can't quite figure out some of the scenes. And thankfully, there is like the in-game hint system that can literally just tell you like which room you're supposed to go to and which thing you're supposed to click on.
yeah, yeah. And did we all play on casual?
Yeah, I played
Yes.
casual with it.
I
Yep.
couldn't imagine this game on the hardest difficulty. I
And
just I just couldn't.
7th layer of hell.
Oh man. So well, thanks again to the publishing company being able to give us these copies. And you can check out, if you want to yourself, Full Moon Curse and Fortune Play, both of the Connected Hearts games on Nintendo Switch eShop. But unfortunately, we can't necessarily recommend them. But if you do want to check them out, go for it and let us know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to also check out NintendoFuse.com and subscribe to us here on YouTube for more game chats, more reviews, and of course our podcast as well. But thanks for joining us for this one. We'll see you next time.